everyone. Thanks for coming. Thanks for bearing with us. I know we're starting late. If you would please stand and we'll salute the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I think I know everyone here, but in case I don't or you don't know me, I'm Nick Rago, the Veritas Conservative Alliance. And on behalf of Veritas, on behalf of the concerned citizens of Union County and the Union County Tea Party, thanks for coming out tonight. Just a couple of comments on why we're talking about three groups. Many of you know Vicki Jensen, Union County Tea Party leader. About a month ago, I think it was, she sold her house in Fanwood and moved to Queens. Vicki and I had worked very closely, Union County and Veritas, so she had asked me if I would take the Union County group over. I met with some of their key people about a month ago, and we discussed how we would do this. They are going to come under the Veritas Conservative Alliance umbrella. We're going to set up an executive committee for Union County to handle their local issues, and they will come together with us for national, state, major meetings where we can get speakers to come in. At the same time, I received some emails from Rich and Rich from concerned citizens of Union County saying that they were thinking of doing the same thing and joining Veritas. So we had a couple of discussions and we're doing the same thing. They are a well-functioning, well-run organization right here in Scotch Plains, Fanwood. They address a lot of local issues and they are going to come together with Veritas so that we have a larger sphere of influence on some of the larger issues, and so that we can fill a room better when we have meetings. That being said, we were hoping to fill the room a lot more than this tonight, but it is May, and May is probably a lousy month to have a meeting with all the personal things that go on. But we did want to get together as the three groups, and we wanted to do it before the upcoming primaries, which are on June 3rd. So that's a little bit about how the three groups came together. We all play very nicely in the sandbox, and we will get together and plan out our next meetings, and each of the group leaders will let their people know what's going on. We'll take suggestions for what any of you think are prime subjects that you want to discuss at future meetings. Right now, I'm thinking about having a major Common Core event. We will get some people in to talk. I know that's a very hot issue right now, very important here in this state, and really everything we're doing in this Tea Party movement is for our children and our grandchildren. And to have the government take over their education in the manner of Common Core, which is actually brainwashing them and data mining them for information that is nobody's business but the parents, we've got to put a stop to it. So we will, I think that'll be the next thing on our agenda, and we will hopefully come out of that with some information and some action items so that each of the groups can go to their local school boards, all their local officials, and start making a lot of noise to stop this from happening. Because if they take the kids, we're done in a generation or two. For tonight's agenda, I'm going to go through a few updates with you, some news on some things that are going on. Then we have as our main guest tonight, Frank Fiamingo from the New Jersey Second Amendment Society. He will speak a bit about Second Amendment issues. He'll take a lot of questions and answers. And as you can see, Rich Pezzullo, who is running for Senate in the Republican primary, is going to be here tonight. We didn't know for sure, because the candidates all have some busy schedules. They're doing fundraising, and this meeting got pulled together pretty late. I think you're going to enjoy listening to Rich. He was at, last night, Veritas, we were a co-sponsor of a Meet the Candidates night up in Morris County at the Arboretum. We had 7 candidates there, both sides, Democrats, Republicans, for Congress and for Senate. We probably had about 60, 70 people there. It was a very interesting night. Again, I said I've heard Rich speak a couple of times. I think you're going to like what he says and how he says it. Let's get on with some updates. For concerned citizens in Union County, did either of you have anything you wanted to do a quick update on?
Yeah, I do. I'm Rich Fortunato. Just for our people and anyone who wants to join, we're going to continue meeting monthly down at the library. We're going to continue our effort over the summer to get people identified to run for school board. And tonight, for anyone who's a registered voter in Scotch Plains, we are starting our initiative petition signature process. So I've got them here, any Scotch Plains registered voter. This is to get on the ballot the idea of our town council setting up a committee to start to examine Union County's taxing and spending and the manner in which freeholders are elected. So we've been talking about that over the past 6 months in our group, and it's time to start that before we run out of time for the November ballot. So that's sort of where we stand. So after the meeting, anyone who's registered voter in Scotch Plains wants to look at it and sign it, that would be great.
Thank you, Rich. There's no one from Union County Tea Party or from the people who had said they were going to be on the exec committee. I don't think that has any information. Gerald, you don't have anything, right? Okay. All right, then a couple of other things that are going on. Statewide, there is a coalition of conservative groups that has started meeting. It's been meeting maybe for about 4 months now. Voice Over New Jersey, VONJ. Veritas was one of the charter members of the group when it founded. I know New Jersey Second Amendment Society. Frank was down at our last meeting. There's probably 30 to 40 different organizations, not all Tea Party groups, but people and groups with conservative ideas who are coming together to discuss, educate, and maybe have a united voice on certain items that the members agree to. Each group maintains their autonomy, but it gives us a place where we can share ideas, share best practices, and when need be, make a lot of noise to some of our representatives, people running for office, about how we feel. And I think the voices of a few thousand people as opposed to 50 or 100 has a lot more impact. So hopefully this is going to work out. Again, the group's been meeting for about 3 or 4 months now. The next meeting will be in June. Concerned citizens of Union County and the Union County Tea Party I have invited to join. It's a moot point now, but we will have their representatives there also, and I'll keep them updated as to when the meeting is in June. There is a program that's going on now called Citizens for Self-Government. It's a training program, and it's taking a totally different approach on making a difference than what we've been doing, banging our head against the wall year after year. And our friends, many of you know them, Bill and Barbara Ames from Morris Patriots, have taken the lead on getting this program into New Jersey. I would like to promote this among the 3 groups, and we'll put some information out. I would ask the group leaders to promote it internally. If we can get enough interest, we can arrange to have some. There are 5 classes. The classes run all day, and they're spaced out by a couple of months. So class 1 may be in June, 2 may be in August, 3 may be in September, but we can work out the logistics. If we can get enough interest, and I strongly advise you to think about it. I'll be sending the links out. I want you to go to the site. I want you to look at it. In other states, it started to make a difference. People are talking directly with their representatives, one-to-one, and exercising their right to have their opinion heard. So it's a little twist on what we've done, started with the rallies and on and on. It may be the next phase of the movement. We will fill you in on it, but be aware there's something coming that I think we should all take advantage of. Citizens for Self-Government.
Tennessee Senator.
Exactly.
Right.
You got it.
It's the Tennessee Center for Self-Governance.
Right. That's it, Frank. That's the one that started it. And
TCSG.org or something like that.
I first heard them at a Tea Party Patriots National Conference maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. And they had really just kicked it off. And we're talking about how much success they were having. And it has blossomed and it's spreading. So I thank the Ames for bringing it here to New Jersey, and I think we need to take advantage of it. On to some national issues, just updates for everybody. Immigration and amnesty. We know that Speaker Boehner is still looking to pass an immigration bill, an amnesty bill. The conservatives in the House are fighting him, but he's going to continue to push. He's going to work with the establishment Republicans. He's going to team up with the Democrats, and the people be damned. He's going to do everything he can to put it through. They need pressure on him, pressure through some of the national groups, pressure on you, your representatives, to, again, I'm speaking for myself and assuming many people in this room agree with me, you don't all have to. If you think this is wrong, you need to start speaking up on it. And you need to speak up on it now, and you need to continue. Because they will probably tie it into some other bill that that's going to breeze through, and next thing you know, you turn around, and we're going to have an immigration bill that we don't want. On that issue, Tea Party Express, one of the national groups, has changed their stance and has now put out a statement that they are not opposed to an immigration reform bill. I'm associated with Tea Party Patriots. I think the other groups are. Tea Party Patriots has not changed their stance. They are not in support of it. So if you hear that the Tea Party national groups are now in support of an immigration bill, it's Tea Party Express, not Tea Party Patriots.
What's the
Excuse me,
reason?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Tea Party Express, who are they?
It's another national group. You've heard of Tea Party Patriots, I guess you're aware of it.
Sure.
It's another national group like Tea Party Patriots. They're not associated. No. They're big. They're in the news a lot. They have a lot of sway. Why? I have no idea. I'm just reporting. This just came out like yesterday or today.
I'd love to know. I'll find out who's behind that group. That it can't be conservatives.
They have been on the right side of issues
Yeah.
for a long time. This came as a shock to many people.
Okay.
Now, has someone got to someone in that group, one of the leaders? Possible, Ed. Very possible.
They were the group
Or
that,
do
Hang on.
they have a plan? Maybe they have a plan that might be more acceptable to conservatives.
All I know, Al, at this stage is that they changed their stance on this.
they were the group that brought Sarah Palin and Mark Levine to New Jersey for Steve Lonigan
Yes.
in the last Senate campaign.
Yeah, exactly. So
Down
they
in
don't,
Down at the
Then it was New Egypt Raceway.
New Egypt Raceway.
yeah, so I mean, they've been on the right, this really came as a shock. But I'm just letting you know, I'm just trying to bring you up to date on this.
Most people got to realize also, they do not represent our views.
No,
They represent their own.
their own views, right. These, you know, even with a group like Tea Party Patriots, which I am associated with, I go to their national conventions, they don't speak for any individual groups. They speak for themselves, they put information out, they do training, we all do what we think is best for us. Okay, so we cannot be corrupted because every little group is its own entity. You can't corrupt a group that has no titular head. Couple of other things. The Benghazi investigation, I guess most of you are aware, the House has appointed a select committee. Trey Gowdy is chairing it, which is, couldn't be anybody better. The Democrats obviously oppose it and are trying to stop it or not take part in it. And the other thing to just be aware of is don't be so sure that whatever Mr. Gowdy comes up with is going to be acted upon by the House. Okay? He may uncover some things, and the House, with the leadership, may decide not to act on it, or to issue a resolution, or some useless act on it.
I'm thinking he's not going to really do much of anything till after the midterm election.
By the
Oh,
time they get-
well, at least the primary.
Yeah, nothing before the primary.
Yeah.
It's too close. The IRS scandal, more information is coming to light almost every day that this wasn't an attack against conservative groups. It's working its way up. I think it has entered the White House with someone on the staff, emails tying some people together. There is a lawsuit against the IRS filed by Tea Party patriots. And, you know, people, that's about as big an abuse of power by our government as you're going to find.
Was your group involved in?
No, we were not. We were not targeted.
Okay.
We were not targeted.
But
I will tell you something.
East Jersey was, and we're part of the lawsuit.
You're part of the lawsuit?
Yeah.
Back when there was a demonstration about a year ago against the IRS, and it was one of these overnight deals, and I pulled one together here for the IRS in Mountainside. And we had about 50, 60 people show up, and we had a quiet, but we had a peaceful protest on their lawn. And all of us grandfathers and our grandchildren and the like were under observance by 2 DHS trucks with officers in it. We filmed it and made sure that us grandparents did not storm the IRS office on Route 22. I swear to God.
Did you buy them dinner?
No, but we waved.
Should have
And
bought them dinner.
This was right after the Boston Marathon. They got through there, but they made sure they were watching us. Get your priorities together. Last thing I want to talk about before we get to our guest speaker, the primary elections. Again, you may not all agree with me, but I'm going to give you my opinion since I'm up here and, as they say, I paid for this mic. The establishment Republican Party is closing ranks against conservative challengers. They are pooling their money together, their resources, and they are going to fight harder against conservative challengers than they ever will come November against Democrats. I mean, that's a given. Hey, Jerry, how are you? Everybody, welcome Jerry. They will pull all punches against the conservative challengers right now. They will get dirty. They will say whatever they have to say. They won't say, oh, he's a nice guy, I just don't agree with his policies. They'll say that when they're going against the liberals. Right now, it's gloves off. It's a very tough battle. Also, you know, the establishment, the GOP is also working with Chamber of Commerce and big business to protect the status quo. And unfortunately, the Republicans seem to be very content with their position as a second-class ruling party, even if they're not getting anything done. And we the people, you know, we're out here on our own. And if it isn't a grassroots effort from everyone, it's not going to happen. Don't fool yourself if you think it's somebody else who's going to take care of it, because they're not. This is in your hands. There are some organizations that are providing support, and we should mention them. The Tea Party Patriots, the Senate Conservative Fund, Freedom Works, and Americans for Prosperity. They've been putting some money behind some of the right candidates, so let's acknowledge what they've done. The biggest win so far in the battle between the people and the ruling class is Ben Sasse in Nebraska for the Senate seat on the Republican side. Also, some of the wins by some of the Tea Party people, Alex Mooney in West Virginia, Lee Terry in Nebraska, and Kurt Clausen in Florida. These are all for House primaries. So there have been some wins, and there have been some losses, and there's probably going to be some more losses. Because fighting the kind of money and exposure that the establishment can put together is no easy task, believe me. I'm telling you to get involved in your local primaries. Because the primary is the place where a small number of people can make a big difference. You can have so much more impact right now on June 3rd here in New Jersey than you ever will in November. But you have to get out, you have to mobilize between now and June 3rd. It's not a lot of time. Some of us have been out there day after day on this. I mean, full disclosure, I'm on Dave Larson's campaign because I want Leonard Lands out. It's full disclosure. But you have, in the 7th Congressional District, we've got Dave Larson running against Congressman Lance. We've got Dr. Eck in the 12th Congressional District. You've got Rick Van Glan going up against Frelinghuyser up in the 11th. And then for the Republican senatorial primary, there are 4 candidates. There's Rich Pezzullo, Murray Sabrin, Jeff Bell, and Brian Goldberg. Find them, listen to them, research them, decide who best is going to represent you and your children. Because the future of your children and your grandchildren is it's in bad shape right now. We are not passing on to them the America that we inherited. And if we don't start making a change on it, they're not going to have much left of what we received from our parents and our grandparents. So get involved. These primaries are happening right now. Donate your time, donate your money, find the headquarters, go down, stuff envelopes, get on the phones, do something. Whatever you think you can do, try to do more. It's a short time frame. If I told you you could make a difference in the next couple of weeks that you couldn't make in the last 4 years, you tell me I'm crazy. But you can. And if you take some of these primaries from the establishment party, right now, you start a wave motion. People start to feel their oats. They start to feel, look, we did something. Just us, we did something, a few people. And that's how maybe you'll get, you know, next time around, 60, 100 people in this room. You need a win now and then. We've been getting kicked around. And we've been getting kicked around by the people that we knew we were fighting and by the people who we thought we were helping. I'm tired of it. You should all be too. Enough of me. Let us move on for tonight's our guest speaker. Frank Jack Fiamingo is a retired businessman who did not grow up around guns and did not give them much thought. At age 61, I thought you were only about 40 years old, he was introduced to the shooting sports by his brother in Florida. His journey began when he decided to apply for a New Jersey firearms purchaser's identification card. New Jersey is one of the most overregulated states with regard to the rights that are supposed to be protected by our Second Amendment. After having his background checked by criminal behavior, his mental health records invasively searched, and having been fingerprinted like a common criminal, he began to look at the antiquated quagmire of draconian laws that are the New Jersey firearms statutes. He founded the New Jersey Second Amendment Society, NJ2AS, in July of 2010, and with 9 other concerned individuals, he can boast multiple thousands of members. And the story continues. Please welcome Mr. Frank Fiamingo.
If I'm silly enough to run for office, you could be my campaign. Well, you know, first of all, of course, I want to thank Nick and Rich for inviting me here tonight. And you know, what really have we been talking about? We've been talking about involvement. I mean, that's really what everything, why we got it, why we're here, why we're meeting. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about tonight, although I'm going to be speaking about the Second Amendment, it applies to all of the things, all of the concerns that we have. Common Core, you know, the invasion of our parental rights in general, taxes. Taxes are completely out of control. Business, the way that regulations, you know, business is treated in New Jersey, they're leaving in droves. The best companies, the best people are leaving. So when you hear me talking about the Second Amendment, keep in mind that all of this applies to everything that all of you stand for. So let me tell you why I love coming to these kinds of meetings. I don't have to explain what a right is to you people, right? You understand that a right is something that we're born with. It's not something that's granted to us by the state. Let me just get some kind of idea. How many gun owners do we have in the room? Okay, I would say about half. Okay, that's good. I just like to get an idea because that helps me weight my discussion a little bit better. You know, the only way, you know, no one, when you look at the situation that we're in today, you know, and I hear people say they're taking our rights. You know, it used to be they're taking our jobs. Now it's they're taking our rights. But your rights can't be taken away from you. Not really, okay? The exercise of your rights can be taken away from you. Now why do I make that distinction? And that's because it's a way of thought that I want you to think about. If you're not already doing that, and I think probably many of you already are, but no one can take away your rights. Those are something that you're born with. So can they interfere with you by force or by threat of force from being able to exercise your right? Absolutely, and they do it all the time. And they do it in very unique ways, especially the state of New Jersey. We're one of the worst for statutes, for regulations, for enforcement, and so forth. But you know what's sadder? Those people who have given up their rights by apathy and by throwing up their hands and saying, you know, or by giving in and saying, I'll let the state protect me. I'll let the state take care of me. Well, that's a false promise. We all know the only resources that the government actually has are those that they obtain from us, we the people. So, as in most areas of life, the greater the number of middlemen, you know, the higher the cost. And sometimes that's not a problem if there's quality, if there's value added, okay? But, you know, I think when it comes to individual liberty and individual responsibility, I mean, who knows better than each of us what's best for us? So to give that over to the state is the biggest mistake a person can make. So the other thing is, I don't have to explain to you, you understand that we live in a constitutional republic and not in a democracy, and why that's such an important distinction. You know, that we live in a nation of laws, not a nation of majority rules. Because if majority rules, then majority can vote away your rights. Well, not a vote. They can't vote away your God-given rights or your natural rights, but they can vote away your ability to exercise those rights. They can interfere with those rights. So, the fact that we live in a constitutional republic prevents them theoretically, right, from doing that, but only if we enforce that. We'll get into that a little bit more as we go along. When I talk to you about inalienable human rights to life, you already understand that we're talking about a pre-existing right, and that right, the right to defend our life, is protected by the Second Amendment, which is, by the way, and a lot of people don't quite get this unless you're really involved in the movement, the Second Amendment actually exists as a warning to the government, right? It's not a warning to the people, it's a warning to the government not to infringe upon our rights. So it's important to highlight that, because when you think about the fact that our founders, our forefathers, who, by the way, fought and died, you know, to establish this nation, were smart enough to say, you know, we need to make sure that these people don't infringe on the right to free speech, the right to privacy, the right to keep their arms, and so forth. So let's talk about, so I don't have to go into a lot of that stuff with you because you're here. You're the people that are already involved. So let's talk about where we are today with regards to the right to keep and bear arms here in New Jersey. Well, like so many other rights, we're under assault. Okay, our right to keep and bear arms is drastically under assault in this state right The legislature of New Jersey is functionally incapable of distinguishing between law-abiding citizens and criminals. They just are not capable of imagining that there's a difference. So, as a result, they consistently pass bills that do nothing at all to reduce crime, but they do inflict these serious transgressions upon the rights of innocent law-abiding citizens. The recently passed bill, S-993, it's a prime example of what I'm talking about. This bill would make it a felony. Now listen to this closely. This bill makes it a felony to possess a magazine, which is a cartridge that holds, it's not a cartridge, it's a tube that holds a number of rounds, which you would maybe refer to as bullets if you're not familiar with guns, but people who are familiar with guns know they're called cartridges. So you could put X number of cartridges into a magazine. Well, they just made it a felony to be in possession of a magazine that will hold more than 10 cartridges. Now, currently in New Jersey, the legal limit is 15. They passed a law some time ago that reduced it from what, unlimited really to 15. Most other states have no limitations. I mean, the majority of the states have no limitations with regard to the number of rounds you can have. But keep in mind, again, right, even if there is no hint of criminal intent, the mere possession of these magazines is a felony, and so it could put you in prison. The reason magazine capacity limits are a problem is that criminals in the insane do not obey the law, right? So, what happens? Let's assume for a moment that the law-abiding citizen is going to comply with this law, which there's some question. You may have heard that they passed something similar in Connecticut, and there's very little enforcement going on because the police don't want to enforce it, and the people don't want to comply, and nobody wants to have that confrontation. And I think we're going to have a similar situation here in New Jersey. But this law puts the law-abiding individual at a significant disadvantage when 3 armed assailants come breaking through your front door at 2 o'clock in the morning with 30-round magazines, and you're fumbling around with 10-round magazines to defend your life and your family. That's the problem. Because people say to me, well, what's the big deal? So what? When you go to the range, you have to change your magazine more often. That's not the issue. It's not a matter of convenience. Loretta Weinberg wants to make you think that they're concerned with the inconvenience. No, it has nothing to do with the inconvenience. It has to do with the real possibility. Because imagine this, right? It's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're bleary-eyed already. And now, okay, perhaps if it was a one-on-one and everything was equal, you might stand a chance. Although it's tough because these are career criminals and you're just the average, guy who goes to the range and shoots at paper targets. Now you're faced with a human being. It's a tough thing. Your adrenaline's running and you're shaky and you've got tunnel vision and all these things happen. You don't want to have that extra disadvantage of if you miss the first 10 shots, now you've got to go and reach for another magazine. So, that's the reason. Now, I'm not here to tell you that's a daily occurrence. It's not a daily occurrence. We don't have 3 armed assailants breaking into our house. Has anybody had anybody had their home breaking into? I mean, you have, okay. I hope everything turned out okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm getting a gun.
the truth of the matter is, I'll tell you a quick aside. Today I had, I don't know if you guys know Brian Donahue with the Star Ledger and NewJersey.com. He takes videos and puts them on. He's kind of a liberal, but he asked if he could interview me. I let him come. He came to my house and set up the camera, and we talked for quite a bit. And, he was arguing with me about, well, why are you guys all so afraid I said, we're not afraid. Well, first of all, we're not afraid because we have a gun. That was a joke. I said, we're not afraid. It's not that we sit there in fear, and it's not that we sit there in our rocking chairs with our rifle in our hand or our pistol in our hand, waiting for somebody to breach the plane of our house, you know. The second to last thing any of us want to do is shoot another human being, okay? We are the ones that believe in the value of life, you know. So the last thing is for somebody to come into our house and kill one of our family members or kill us, right? So I went into, he says, well, you know, it really doesn't happen that often where a person has to defend themselves. I said, that is not true. Well, I said, you know what the truth is? That you guys don't print the stories. He said, oh, that's not true. I'd print the story if I heard about a guy shot somebody defending himself. I said, that's exactly the point. They would have to shoot them before you would write a story. 99% of the time, the guy runs, turns tail and runs, just by brandishing that firearm. But if you don't have it, you don't have a firearm to brandish, right? Oh. I said, you write that story? Well, no, there's nothing to write. Yeah, how about that? There's nothing to write. He said, you know what? I never thought about it that way. So, you know, I mean, I know you can't talk to liberals, right? So they tell me. But you have to try, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a minute. But it was a worthwhile interview. And you know what? Now he wants me to take him up to the Woodland Park Range and teach him how to shoot it. So, you know, we're going to film it and see what happens. So, no, it's not a daily occurrence, you know, but as I said to him, and he kind of poo-pooed me, I said, but neither is a house fire. But I said, do you have a fire? Do you have a fire extinguisher in your house? You know, and he says, of course I do. Well, what's that have to do with anything? I said, listen closely. Okay? You know, do you think that the government has the right to tell you what capacity? Well, first of all, I said, why do you have a fire extinguisher in your house? You never had a fire, have you? You know, so that, first of all, understand that you have it in the eventuality that you do have a fire, you have something to protect yourself with, right? I said, would you stand for the government telling you what capacity fire extinguisher you have to have in your house, or how many of them? Of course, that's ridiculous. So, you know, you really have to put these things in terms that other people have a chance of understanding. They'll still probably turn their mind off. Many people will, but you'll get through to a few. Another recently passed bill, A2777, puts further limits on how, when, and where you can transport your unloaded, locked firearms. Why do I get so excited about this? Because, you know, being in the wrong place at the wrong time is a second-degree felony. Okay? It's a second-degree felony here in New Jersey. So if you stop at one of the very few exemptions that New Jersey allows, for more than 15 minutes, you could wind up in prison for 7 to 10 years. Presumptive 7, minimum 5, 3 years without parole. That's mandatory. Why? Because we have something called the Graves Act in New Jersey. A lot of people don't know about this. The Graves Act says any crime involving a firearm, not you shot somebody, not you threatened somebody, any crime involving a firearm. So if it's locked in the trunk of your car and you stopped somewhere you weren't supposed to stop, or you were there for more than 15 minutes, according to the new bill, you committed a crime and it involves a firearm. The Graves Act engages its mandatory sentences. So if you're convicted, mandatory prison sentence. That's the way this state goes. In addition, you know, and the fun never stops. In addition to the passage of these bills, the Supreme Court recently decided not to hear the Drake case. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with that, the Drake case was our single best chance of overturning New Jersey's justifiable need requirement for a carry permit. Now, everything that I talked about up to this point was just to possess a firearm in your home and transport it back and forth to the range, or in the process of moving, or to the gun store to get it fixed, and so forth. Had nothing to do with carrying it on your person. Oh no, you cannot do that in New Jersey. Okay, it has to be unloaded and locked in the trunk of your car, or locked in a securely tied package, whatever the hell that means. They come up with some really weird stuff in their statutes. In order to carry a firearm, so in other words, you are not allowed to protect your life outside of your home. So that poor Dustin Friedland that got shot in the face at the Short Hills Mall really didn't have the option to have a firearm on his person to protect his personal life and his wife. It's only by the grace of, I don't know, that his wife was not hurt in that same situation. So in order to get a carry permit, you must demonstrate what's called a justifiable need. Now the court system in New Jersey interprets a justifiable need as you have to demonstrate a proven, ongoing threat to your life. Well, usually by the time you're able to convince a New Jersey judge of that, it's too late. So, so what can we, no, this is all bad stuff, right? So what can we do as individuals about this intolerable situation? Well, everything that Nick was talking about before, involvement, I mean, that involvement is so key. Well, for one thing, a lot of us are guilty of this. We can stop acting like closet alcoholics. Okay, how many gun owners don't tell anybody that they're a gun owner? You know, their neighbors don't know, their family doesn't know, their friends don't know, because it's a stigma. It's not a stigma. It doesn't matter if they think we're crazy. Honestly, it's our job as responsible gun owners to educate these people. After all, these are the people that know us best, you know? So they should know better than to think there's something wrong with us for taking the individual responsibility for our own life and for the welfare of our families. Will they? Not always. And some of them will look at you out of the side of their face, but you will convince some of them, and I'll get to that in a moment. We need to make more opportunities to bring more people to more meetings just like this. Drag your friends, let's do more of these. And it doesn't have to be about the Second Amendment. You know, like you say, common core, great, that's wonderful. Parental rights, so forth. We need to do more and more of these meetings to get people involved, to get them excited, to get them emotionally invested in what we all care about, is the future, like you said. It's not for us. You know, we're not going to live to see it, you know, but for our kids and our grandkids, we have to do this. Otherwise, they won't have I'm old, so I've been around for a while, so the kind of life I had when I was a kid, which was idyllic, I gotta say. I mean, I grew up in the 50s. It was terrific. You know, so well enough after the war, the war brides and the servicemen were, you know, settled in now, and they having their families. It was a good time. Okay, so we need to have more meetings like this, but we can't accomplish our goal in an echo chamber. Now, I know I'm not the first one to tell you that. Okay, I'm sure you've all heard that phrase before. But, you know, why don't we feel we can talk to our neighbors? Why don't we feel we can talk to our friends? We have to overcome that. I mean, whatever that fear is, whatever that is that's holding us back, why do we feel that we can't talk to our neighbors about something as important as the future of the United States as a nation of free, independent individuals? I mean, what's more pure, what's more, you know, upbeat and uplifting than that phrase? We used to do that. I mean, you know, you couldn't wait to go to a parade and put your hand over your heart and salute the flag. What the hell happened? You know, it's because we stopped doing those things. You know, I know, and I'm as guilty as, you know, I'm not preaching. I'm as guilty as the next guy. When I lived in New Brunswick, East Brunswick, I lived in a bedroom community. I don't think I ever talked to my neighbor. I would drive in, hit my button, the door would open, I would ride into my garage, get out, and go to the house. That was it. You know, I never talked to my neighbors. Well, that's got to stop. So we need to talk to our neighbors. After we educate the neighborhood, we need to spread the word through the community, the county, and the state. And some of the ways that we can do that is, it doesn't always have to be, you know, just like one-on-one and that sort of thing. We can get involved in township committees, you know, on the different parties, take them over. We can get involved in county committees, you know, once we get a little bit of experience under our belt, we get a little bit stronger. I mean, half of these seats go uncontested, you know, so it's just a matter of educating ourselves what this is all about. What does it mean to be a county committee person? I'm the last person to ask, but, you know, because I can't explain it very well, but what does it mean to be a township committee person, a county committee person? What do they get to do? How do they influence the elections? How do they choose who gets to run and all that sort of thing? Who gets the party backing? Those are things that we need to, yes?
If you'd like, I'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure.
When you're done.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. So, we all need to remember that the power still rests with the people of this country if they are willing to exercise it. You know, when Benjamin Franklin was asked by that woman the question, what kind of government have you given us? He replied, a republic, madam, if you can keep it. Well, whether we like it or not, now it falls to us as far as who's going to keep it. We the people, we are the ones that have to replace the hopelessness and the apathy that we see out there every day with empowerment. Now, how do we do that? Well, you know, remind people that their vote does count. I mean, I know it's trite, and I know it's kind of a cliche at this point, but damn it, their vote, especially if they don't vote, their vote counts, right? Because this is not, you know, if they don't like what they see, then the only way to influence the change at this point is to get the right people in the right position. So that to me is empowerment, and just I don't think it's all that hard. And remember, we don't need to convince all the people. We just need to convince enough. You know, the margins aren't really that far. Now, we're hitting the tipping point though, folks, and I know you all know that. So this is the time. Now is the time. That's it. After this, who knows? So we need to do that. We need to get these people, just some of them, just enough to get involved. Let's face it, the people aren't going to come to us. They're not going to come to us. They're not going to come seek us out and find us. We have to find them, and we have to bring them in, we have to talk to them. So let's figure out how we're going to do this. That course, I took the first class. Excellent. The Tennessee Center for Self-Governance. Okay, look it up. They have a website. I think it's TNCSG. That's what it is. .org. But if you just put in Google Tennessee Center for Self-Governance, it'll come up. Look at it. They have 5 levels of courses. I only took the first one. I was blown away with it. So I would suggest taking it. There are very good suggestions in there how to work the system. And not only work the system with legislators, but how to deal with people, how to go knocking on doors. You know, when you want to support Rich, right? When you want to support Dave or Steve. You know, we need to get out there and help them. So let's face it, the people aren't going to come to us. We need to be the ones getting out there and spreading a consistent message of individual freedom and individual responsibility. Now, of course, one of the best ways you can help us to spread the word about the right to keep and bear arms is to join the New Jersey Second Amendment Society. Now, you know I had to get that in there, right? I mean, that wasn't the primary reason that I came here tonight. I did want to speak to you about all these things, but to be perfectly frank, we need each and every member that we can possibly get. The more voices that we have, the better the chance we'll be able to save the exercise of our right to keep and bear arms. So I've got some brochures up here. I'm going to introduce to you very briefly Alexander Rubian in a few minutes. He's going to assist me with signing you people up. We'll sign you all up. Those of you who aren't already members, I see some familiar faces. And so, just to tell you a little bit about us real quick, The NJ2AS is the only all-volunteer grassroots New Jersey gun rights organization. Okay, no one gets paid a salary. Every dime that we get in dues and donations goes right back into the mission. And that mission is to promote the free exercise of our Second Amendment protected rights, or those that are supposed to be protected by the Second Amendment, within the New Jersey legislature and the public, to educate them both, the legislature and the public, about the safe and responsible use of firearms, and to engender a spirit of camaraderie among the members and their families. The camaraderie part, believe it or not, is very important. And I think you guys get that too, because you know, the more we know each other, the better we get to know each other, and the different personalities and the different talents and skills and abilities, the more effective we become, the more effective we become in bringing other people in and moving forward. So, as I mentioned, Mr. Rubian's here, Alexander Rubian. He's going to help you sign you up. And let's see. So I think what I'll do now is I'm going to close with the paraphrase of the words of Benjamin Franklin, which are as true today as when he first spoke them. I'll alter the words slightly. The answer to what kind of government we have been given is a republic, my friends, if we are willing to work hard to keep it. Thank you very much. Alexander, come up. Did you want to say a few words, Alexander, real quick? Alexander is my vice president of the New Jersey Sector. I just wanted to introduce himself so you know who he is, and if you're interested, we can sign you up. And then
I wasn't really prepared to speak
no,
tonight.
I just wanted to
Yeah, nor did I have any coffee today, so I'm actually fresh. But I mean, everything that I was going to say has already been said. But what I can really do is emphasize the fact how important it is for each and every one of you to get involved in campaigns. We got involved in a District 16 campaign with Donna Simon, who openly comes out and tells us that she's a supporter of the Second Amendment. She supports concealed carry, and the 2 elections before, she only won her election by less than 1% against a woman named Marie Corfield, who is a radical left buddy-buddy with Loretta Weinberg. Loretta Weinberg endorsed her, sponsored her. You know, you can't get scarier than her. And just getting 10-15 NJ2AS members together and helping in her campaign this past election, she won by over 10%. And that just really demonstrates the power of what the people can do if they just focus on a specific campaign and utilizes their resources of just knocking on doors. So you don't necessarily have to be a marathon runner just to go running around town all day knocking on doors. You can drive the car if you're handicapped, for instance, and just go from block to block, drop people off, pick people up, have them go out flyers, knock on doors, leave things in mailboxes. There's always going to be a place for someone, no matter what your circumstances are. So we had a phenomenal system down for those few weeks that we were helping Donna, and it sure showed what getting involved can do. When I got involved in politics in college, because I was studying political science, a lot of the campaigns that we worked on, I mean, it was really 5, 10, 15 people tops on assembly and senate races, most of them being direct friends and family of the candidates or the incumbents. So even a group like today showing up, you guys came here, you're hanging out for a couple hours, why don't, just focus on getting involved in a campaign, get the 20 of you, 30 of you together, and just get involved in a local campaign and make it happen. That's really what the most important thing is manpower, woman power, to get on the boots on the ground, knock on the doors. That's the most vital and important thing. We used that method for Donna Simon, and it worked. 1% to now over 10%. She won by just. If you want to get scared, look up Marie Corfield and look at some of the things she's advocating for on YouTube, and you'll be so happy that Donna won, who is a true constitutionalist, a true conservative, and it would have just been one more person in the New Jersey Assembly side that would have just slice by slice taken your rights away. So, guys, I just want to close and just don't minimize the power of one, because each and every one of you could get involved in a campaign and could really make a difference.
Thanks a lot, Alexander. Did you want to come up and just talk? Yeah, because if you have familiarity with that, that'll be helpful.
Yes. My name is Al Smith. Many of you in this room know who I am.
I started out several years ago as one of the founding members and the first chairman of the Scotch Plains Fanwood Tea Party, which is now under the leadership of Rich Fortunato, is now the Concerned Citizens of Union County. The group is doing a great job. But my current title is, I'm chairman of the Republican Committee in Scotch Plains. And what does the Republican Committee do? And I'm going to encourage you all to get involved. It's great you come to here and to these meetings, but let me give you a real live example of what you do. You get to decide who candidates are, who the Republican Party is going to support. In the case of Rich Pezzullo, he came to our county committee. He and 4 or 5 other folks. Nobody knew who Rich was. He gave a great presentation, and he now has the full backing of the Union County Republican Committee as our candidate. I had the privilege of nominating Dr. Eck, who you heard Nick talk about as one of the candidates to support. I nominated her from the floor of the convention, and she was unanimous. Of course, she had no opposition, but she was unanimously approved. And here's what happens. We now, as the Republican Party and Tea Party members, how many folks here are in our Republican Committee?
All right.
All right? Where they say, where did the Tea Party go? Can't figure it out. We're taking over the Republican Party, slow but sure.
That's great.
So what happens now is we're already working with Dr. Eck. We've already had Dr. Eck come to one of our committee meetings, because I'm the chairman, and say, hey, you come and you talk. And not only the Tea Party folks, but just a great candidate. We have many of the, what we would call the regular Republicans who are supporting him. Rich Pezzullo, wait till he gets here and talks to you. You're going to want to tomorrow go out and work for him. But here's the deal. In each town, there are certain districts. Your town is broken into districts. In each district, there's a male and a female who are known as the Republican committee members of that district. By law, it's got to be male and female. What you want to do is when you see your ballot come in the mail for the primary, you want to go down and you want to see if there's anybody who is in for the male and the female Republican committee person. Now, I describe Union County Republican Committee as Swiss cheese. It's old and it's full of holes. You'll find many of these ballots where there's nobody there. What you need to do is go to your county clerk and find out how many signatures you need to get. In many cases, you're going to find out it's only 1 or 2, so that when you go to the ballot, you sign your name in, and if you need some other folks to sign your name in, and suddenly you're an elected official of the Republican Committee. You actually get the title of honorable, which is worth it just for that. But then you begin the process of working. And as I said, we're going to be supporting Dr. Eck, full shoulders to the wheel on this. We'll be doing a fundraiser for her, as we did for Steve Lonigan, who again, we got to be the approved candidate. So I don't want to make it sound like it's all glory, because you get into these committees and it's very frustrating. But as you get in there and you begin to work and you get other people in there working with you, you can begin to see the changes taking place. So the one thing is, get your ballot, look and see if it's open, and even if it's not open, if you want to run a campaign, if you know you got 15, 20 people who you might be able to get to run a competitive campaign. That's how I got in.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I just want to just give you an opportunity to ask a few questions in a little bit of time, and then we're going to have Rich come on. So did anyone have any questions whatsoever that you want to ask about? Yes.
What, are the police organizations, are they in favor of or not in favor of these more recent restrictions?
I would say, you know, most of them haven't come out and really expressed themselves that I know about, but the ones that people I've talked to, they're not for them. They don't see any.
Frank, is the 10 bullet magazine, is that actually law now?
Well, it passed both houses. It went back to the Assembly because the Senate made some amendments to it. But it's just going to rubber stamp it, and then, but it won't be law unless Christie signs it. We're hoping that he will. Yes.
Just because we're local here, I used to live in Fanwood. 22 years ago, I did all my paperwork in Fanwood to get a permit, and the paperwork was lost.
Yeah.
So I had to go through the whole thing again.
Yeah.
paperwork, 25 bucks, fingerprints and everything. And then happened to be in a room with the chief and the sergeant. And I said, if it gets lost this time, I'm just gonna call the county prosecutor.
Yep,
And about 7 days later, it came through.
good. And that's, you know, that's a point I'd like to make, is that the county prosecutor is responsible for making sure that there's no official misconduct. That was definitely, you know, that's a possibility, at least, that there's official misconduct going on. So don't be afraid to use that. Yes?
I just want to say, the reason a lot of us are closet gun owners is that, if I'm not mistaken, part of the Obamacare business is where the doctors are supposed to ask the question, do you have...
Say, when they ask you that question,
So, and I told my husband,
None of your
you go
business.
for your checkups, just say no.
it's none of your business, that's
You know,
all.
exactly right.
They can't force you to answer the
And I
question.
said, don't tell them, it's none of your business, just say no. So a lot of us say things and do things because,
Yeah.
and I have a neighbor who was on the subway train, or the train 30 years ago,
Yeah.
where people were killed in front of her. No one should have a gun in her life.
Yeah, well, that's,
No
yeah.
guns.
Yeah.
So I don't talk to her about this, but I mean.
Understood, understood.
It's irrational.
Yeah, you know, you have to pick your battles. There, you know there's people that you can't
Exactly.
talk to. Yes.
There are closets.
Frank, you talked shortly about protecting yourself by carrying a firearm on you.
Yes.
Maybe let everybody know, in New Jersey, people think you have three heads with this idea that you might protect yourself in the street with a firearm. Not how many states allow this, and it's not just Wyoming and North Dakota.
No, 40 out of the 48, well, 57 states, how many? Well, 40 out of the 50 states, maybe 41 now, actually routinely, they're called shall issue states. New Jersey is one of the few that are may issue, like Massachusetts and California and a few others.
New York.
And Guam just
New York,
got shell issue.
yeah, yeah. So, one more question and then I'm gonna, yes.
It is, when you said that you can only have 10 bullets in your gun, does that mean in your house?
No, no, that means, no, it's not in your gun. There's a magazine, okay, it's a little tube that's a semi-automatic firearm. That's a semi-automatic, it's not a, people think a semi-automatic is you hold the trigger and it goes bang, 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 bang. It doesn't. You have to pull it for each thing. But you can have a tube in it that has, say, 15 rounds, and each time you shoot one, it feeds the next one in, so it's ready for the, instead of having to, you know, like shoot 6 in a revolver, open the revolver, and then feed more in.
I understand that that would be at the range, but you're saying that the law said that you cannot have a gun in your possession, you have to have it in the trunk.
Yeah, but you could have, if you want, you could have 110 round magazines.
In your house.
You could have 110 round magazines, according to this law, or this unlimited number of 10 round magazines. All of them could be filled, okay? But you can't have the 15 round magazine. Doesn't make any sense. Okay, so, yeah, wait.
Thank you, Frank. Frank, you have cards up here, right?
Yes, I do. There are cards up there. We got brochures.
Take a card because you're going to have a question that you didn't want to ask now publicly because you're in the closet, or that you just think of later, and you want to get a hold of Frank. So take his card so you can get in touch with him. If you don't, and you need to get in touch with him, and you think of it later, contact me, contact Rich or Rich, and we'll make sure you make the connection on it. Just a little housekeeping item. Before we leave, we're going to have a cup sitting over here, a tiny cup. For those of you who can and feel moved to, we accept donations, okay? The halls cost money, the things we do. So if you can, we'd certainly appreciate it. And just fill out one of those little cups would be fine. I spoke earlier about how you can make a difference in the primaries and how a small number of groups can do it. And we spoke about what we're doing is for our children and our grandchildren. Now you've got to think about where we're going as a country, who our representatives are, and what you want for your kids and your grandkids. Now, some of you have probably heard this before because there's familiar faces. But you really got to think about, what do you want? Do you want your kids to be dependent on our all-powerful government for their health care, their dental, their livelihood, their housing, their every need, and yet give up more and more of their responsibilities, more of their choices, more of their treasure, and yes, more of their liberty in return? Or do you want them to be the makers of their own dreams, determining their own futures, able to be anything they want to be in this great country if they're willing to make the sacrifices and do the things that have to be done to achieve the unlimited potential that is here? That's the decision you have to make. That's what all of this political rhetoric comes down to. And I know what the decision is that I want for my kids and my grandkids. And so that's why I'm involved in some of this. You know, last year, Governor Christie could have appointed someone to the Senate seat when Frank Lautenberg passed away. But he didn't. He wanted to play nice with the Democrats. So we called for the special election. And as you know, Booker ran against Steve Lonigan. Lonigan had a lot of name recognition in this state. And he had some strong conservative ideas. You know, I worked for him, I did a lot of you here did. I can tell you I was honored that the night before the election, Steve asked me to come and speak at his last rally on the Green in Morristown. And it was something to be up there speaking. And as I was coming off the stage, Reince Priebus was coming onto the stage. I don't think I'll have that experience again. But with all the work that the grassroots did, it was not enough. Because not enough people came out. Not enough people got involved. So we have a primary coming up, as I said before. It's coming up on June 3rd. There are a number of candidates running for the Republican nomination to run against Cory Booker. We know where Cory Booker stands. I've heard a number of the candidates. I've heard Rich now twice. He barged in on a private meeting we had about a month ago, uninvited, and he spoke for a bit, and I was very impressed. And then, as I mentioned last night, we were co-sponsors of a candidates night up in Morris County. Rich was there, Maurice Avery was there, and a number of people running for congressional seats. And I've been impressed with what I've heard from Rich. And because when I think about what I want for my kids and my grandkids, I want somebody who is going to go in, and this is what I said for Lonigan, and I'm going to say it now, I'm going to say it again. I want somebody who's going to go into that gentleman's club called the U.S. Senate and kick some butt and shake them up and say what has to be said, and say it in bold, bright colors. Someone who's not afraid of political correctness, not afraid because the media is going to paint them as some right-wing nut job, but someone who's going to believe what I believe and what you believe, the American dream, economic freedom, and a debt-free future for our kids. Is that asking too much? I don't think so. Now, Rich is going to talk, weigh him out, weigh it against the others, but from what I heard, he's talking the way I want to hear somebody talk. So please welcome Rich Pezzullo.
Thank you very much for taking me at this hour. Oh, well, okay, let me cut right to the chase. I'm running for the United States Senate for 3 reasons. My parents can't afford to live here. My kids want to leave. And my wife and I and all of our friends and just about everybody we know is having the hardest time we can ever imagine, just trying to live our lives, pay our bills, keep track of our kids in school, and just try and live a happy, free life and quietly enjoy the property that we're able to collect as we live. Cory Booker, on the other hand, doesn't suffer from these problems. His parents are rich, they got plenty of money. Cory Booker has no kids, and he can tweet himself $1 million. He's used his celebrity to make himself into a very wealthy man. For these reasons and the differences that I just pointed out, I don't think that Cory Booker is the right man to represent the principles of New Jersey, the lifestyles of New Jersey, the desires and needs of New Jersey. And I think if I go around the state, I could find a lot of people that would agree with me on that Cory Booker, all of his time spent in Washington, D.C. is just a waste of our time and our money as taxpayers. Some of those people might actually be in this room. But that's not going to win an election, just saying the other guy's no good. We watched Steve fight a valiant fight last year. He closed the gap, got the best run against a Senate candidate by pointing out the stark differences and all of Cory Booker's faults. Drove Cory Booker's negatives really high. But what didn't happen was he didn't make a good enough case for why he should be the senator to use the conservative playbook as the way to solve the nation's problems. That's what we need to do. We have to make a good, committed case for that. So let me just step back a second and introduce myself and make that case for you. My name is Rich Pezzullo. I was born in the Bronx, moved here as a child, and went to school in New Milford, New Jersey. I was fortunate enough as a Cub Scout to be reading the back of Boy's Life, and they have the ads for schools back there. And I saw an ad for a school called New York Military Academy. And it just caught my eye. And so as I was going to middle school, I finally brought it to my guidance counselor, and she shared it with my parents. I don't know how. My dad was a cop, my mom was a clerk, and somehow with a scholarship I was actually able to go to this boarding school. And it totally changed my life. I want to share one story about military school with you. But if you have a chance to send a kid or a grandkid or a neighbor's kid to military school, do it. It's the best thing that could happen. But here it was. As a new guy, everybody tells you what to do. As a sophomore, you're in charge of new guys. So I had a squad of these high school freshmen that I was responsible for, and I'm standing up at my first inspection. I had to drop and give my commander 20 push-ups because one of the guys in my squad, his shoes weren't shined. What a lesson to learn. I had to drop and give 20 push-ups because, you know why? When you're responsible, you're accountable. Wouldn't it be nice if everybody in Washington understood that? Lessons learned when you're 14. I learned a lot of other lessons there. I must have done a good job because I was able to earn a full scholarship at Cornell University. It was an ROTC scholarship. Otherwise, I was looking at community college maybe, but I was willing to actually get involved and go serve in the military. Turns out that my rich uncle that paid my way through college did give me a job when I got out. I stayed 20 years in the United States Army Reserve. Finished up as a major. I worked with computers. And what I did with computers was I would go to different places, and they were rolling out 386 computers. I'm dating myself. And I'd say, hi, I'm Major Pezzullo. Show me what your computer assets are. Show me what your mission is. My job is to help you use your assets to do your mission. And I worked in every kind of facility that you can imagine. Warehouses, clubs, travel agencies, dispatch facilities, anything, any type of business inside the military I worked in as a reservist. And on the outside, my wife and I built a little computer integration company. And what does a computer integrator do? I walk into a place, say, hi, I'm Rich Pezzullo. Show me what your computer resources are. Let's talk a little bit about your business and what you're trying to get accomplished here. And let's see if we can use your existing technology to solve your business problems. This is an important skill set to spend 20 years developing. The science of getting people to use what they have to do what they need to do. And more importantly, to be a change agent, to help them embrace that technology, take them out of their comfort zone, and get them to move and actually use the technology the way it's supposed to be. Like people wouldn't trust to push the envelope button in Word to print out envelopes. They'd still try and print a label and stick them on. There's different things like that that you would do. But my point is that in running that business, I've discovered some things that are different this year. I work with the ladies behind the counter at your doctor's office, probably, that scans your insurance card. She's worried about the fact that the UPS guy sees her computer screen that's a HIPAA violation. She's broken federal law. Over in the treatment room, the doctors are worried if they're away from their computer for more than 120 seconds, 2 minutes, yeah, you got that federal rule that says the computer has to lock up on a screensaver, and he has to take off his exam gloves, put in a password, and then continue on again. Those are federal regulations. The federal government has arrived in your doctor's office. He's dealing with that when he's trying to run his practice and figuring out how to pay his staff all the more benefits with smaller and smaller reimbursements. And that doesn't even talk about the changes that are coming inside Social Security reimbursements. There's more than just Obamacare that is crushing the ability of the medical profession to do their job. I also work with builders. Builders are out there, and they're dealing with the fact that they're doing evaluation after evaluation to try and get the money down from FEMA to rebuild the state. There's money there, but we can't get it out of the bureaucracy. I work with charities that do things like Meals on Wheels. There's money available for that, but you can't get through the bureaucracy to do it. What has happened this year that's different from so many other years is that while we're aware of it, everybody else you know is aware the federal government has arrived in their lives, and they don't like it. It's everywhere. It's up in your light bulbs. It's in your bathroom. It's all over your house. If you try and go to the farm market, you're dealing with the federal government. It's in your schools. They're in our schools now. They're not only telling teachers how to teach, they're giving them scripts. They're turning our kids into widgets and our teachers into factory workers. And that's not what they went to school to do. These are the types of intrusions that we see all over the place. And this year, people are finally ready to stand up and say, I want to change. And they know that the change has to happen at the federal level. So you need to send somebody to Washington that will address these types of issues. I want to think that I'm that guy. Because I'm the change agent. I can go into the coat room where politics really happens, and I can go eyeball to eyeball with John McCain and talk to him, man to man, major to major. I can talk to him officer to officer, Republican to Republican, and say, please start voting with us. We need to unite the Republican majority, which we're going to have in the United States Senate. We need to unite that Republican majority around some important principles. First and foremost, we have to finish the work of getting Obamacare repealed. Rip it out, root and branch. Second thing we have to do is we have to get the federal government in the legislative process actually obeying the Constitution. You don't have to wait for a Supreme Court justice to say, I don't think this is constitutional. How many of us at our Rotary meetings, at our club meetings, at our fraternity meetings, at our Cub Scout meetings say, wait, it's not in the bylaws. We can't do this. That's your job as a legislator. Not to make deals and try and figure out ways to circumvent the regulations. Our job as legislators is to make sure that the legislation that we promote actually complies with the rules, because rules do matter. And unfortunately for us, as we're all aware, the firewall that is the Constitution, that Bill of Rights that's supposed to protect us, has been breached at every level. We're seeing the First Amendment under assault. I'm learning that now in a campaign, the way speech is being limited in the forms when you start doing political speech. And the Second Amendment is under total assault, which brings into play the denial of individuals their fundamental God-given right to defend themselves. And we have a government that can't understand that the word shall not be infringed is really plain and simple English. There's not a lot to interpret there. As you go through the Bill of Rights, and it's late, I won't go through it, I would love to come back another time, but I could give you chapter and verse in every case where the Bill of Rights, all the way up to the 10th Amendment, totally ignored. Everything that's supposed to protect us has been ignored. Second thing we have to do is get the government in the legislative process to enforce and defend the Constitution. 35 years ago, I took an oath to defend the Constitution. A couple of weeks ago when I was out with the Second Amendment representatives in Connecticut, representing the state of New Jersey, gun owners here in this state. Once again, the Oath Keepers were called forward. Anybody who ever took this oath were called forward. And we stood together, and it was a magic moment, because unlike that time 35 years ago, those words, defend against all enemies. Because now I've seen the enemies, and those words are so much more powerful to me today. And my commitment to defend that Constitution is infinitely more powerful than it ever was. Because I've seen the enemies, and we have the ability to empower legislators who are willing to stand up and defend the Constitution. And the way we ultimately do that is by doing the third thing. Third thing we do is we get the Senate working as a team. We unite, particularly the majority of Republicans. We just need to change some hearts to do that. If we change hearts within the Senate and get that legislative body actually looking out for the states they're supposed to represent and for the union they're supposed to protect. We can do things like getting rid of the crushing debt that's going to destroy our country and ruin our children's lives and really, really, really send us down a path towards 1,000 years of darkness. We have to reverse that debt, and we can do that if we unite the Senate. We have to get rid of items like Common Core. We have to cut the federal budget in as many ways as we can. And here's a thought for you. If people are okay with the idea that we could get rid of an entire aircraft carrier group, what are we doing really? We're taking billions of dollars in assets and putting it on a shelf. We're taking hundreds of thousands of people and putting them on unemployment, devastating the communities that surround the home port in the name of what? Saving money? If we have to accept that idea, how about we close down the Department of Education? Shelve those billions of dollars worth of assets, put those people on unemployment, and say it's for the good of saving money. In all seriousness, we need to protect the things that we have to protect. The only entitlements that exist in this country are those that were truly earned by the people who put on the uniform and wrote a check redeemable for the full value of their life. They have earned entitlements. And that's our responsibility, is to look out for them. It's a shame, it's an embarrassment that the richest country in the world cannot adequately take care of those few among us, relatively speaking, who stand up and say, I will answer the call, I will be a citizen soldier, I will engage in my responsibility as a member of the militia and actually join the military of the United States. Those are the people to whom we owe the greatest debt, and we need to take care of them. That's a true governmental responsibility. Everything else needs to be taken and looked at, examined, and shrunk. We need to cut wherever we can. How about the Department of Energy, which really seeks to destroy our ability to produce energy at a level that we really need to be competitive in the energy marketplace? We need to drill, baby, drill, so that we can become the largest exporter of oil on the planet. And then our currency will stabilize, our American society and economy will truly thrive. That's the key, is to unleash the industries that we have in this country, to use the resources that we have in this country. When we go to war with entire industries, we take great risks. Right now, the administration is at war with the coal industry. There are generations of families in states throughout this country where their lifestyle and their traditions revolve around this industry, which can and should survive. But because some people would like to shut it down, we lose that. Now, the coal will still be in the ground, but you will never develop the traditions of the coal mining families and the coal mining communities if we allow them to die. And for that reason, and that reason alone, to keep our American communities alive, we should stop the war on the coal industries. When we declare war on industries, we end up punishing entire areas. What we're doing when we downsize the military, well, we think we can shelve those resources, but what you really lose are the non-commissioned officers, the trainers of trainers. You can't ramp up to a 6 million person army without having an NCO corps in place that can do that. That's why there's an important role for the military and for the Army Reserve. Look what we did to the space program. When we were safe in our homes in the 50s, comfortable in Fortress America, and suddenly above our head we heard beep, 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 beep. The Soviets were able to put things in the sky above us that we didn't even know about. We didn't have the technology to do. That was a terrifying moment. And what did this country do? Did they create a centralized bureaucracy with top-down standards and rigorous testing to develop the engineers and the scientists that put a man on the moon 10 years later? No! They put out a call to teachers and called upon their patriotism, their sense of duty, their commitment to the children they were there to serve, to up their game and produce the generation of engineers, put us on the moon, gave us microwave ovens, gave us cell phones, gave us all the beautiful technology that so many people take for granted today, and we did that without the government telling people how to teach. Now, what happened is we declared war on the space industry. And what happens? We're losing all the engineers that we need. when now we can't even negotiate with Russia. We're trying to put sanctions against them, and they ask us, well, how are you going to get your astronauts off the space station if we're you know, in the middle of this disagreement here? That's the real problem we put ourselves in, which is why we should not reverse all of the development we've been doing through free markets. Our DNA is no different than the DNA of those in other countries. We're human beings just like them. So what's different? That we were able to create more wealth in this country in the last 200 years than any other society ever. It's the free markets. So we need to absolutely protect them. So when we do this, we protect our markets, we get rid of things like GATT and NAFTA, we protect our ability to do trade among ourselves. What we do is we get that type of legislation through the Senate, through the legislature, by having people that go by the conservative playbook. Send somebody to Washington with a full-throated, unapologetic, conservative message that that's the playbook. Do what you can afford. Now, we got to beat Cory Booker. Cory Booker is 10 feet tall, 10 feet wide. He's got $1 billion coming to him from Hollywood. He is just the unstoppable person. That's what they tell us, right? What did they tell us about the Soviets? I know, I wore a uniform in the 80s. The Russians were 10 feet tall, 10 feet wide. Their tanks, they had more tanks than us. Their sidearms were better weapons. Everything about the Russians was just better. No, Ronald Reagan said, what did he say? Here's how we deal with the Russians. We win, they lose. In order to achieve victory, you have to seek it. I'm tired of people saying, we can't win in this town, it's a Democrat town. Oh, well, this county's all Democrat. We'll never be able to swing it back to Republican. Cory Booker, that's a heavy lift. I don't accept that. If you're going to achieve victory, go after it, seek it. So from today, we say the Republican brand, that is the way that we are going to deliver the message. We're going to brush off that brand, because we're the party that says if you take people, make them free, and let them fight for their expectations, work for their expectations, live to their goals, they will do that. People will rise to the level they have to do it. So let's go out there at every race and get people involved. That's what we're really going to do. We're going to declare war, not on Cory Booker. Cory Booker is not the enemy. The Democrats are not the enemy. It's not the Democrats that's going to allow this country, already rolling off down the hill, it's going to destroy this country. It's not the Democrats that is going to suck the future away from our children. That's not the enemy. The enemy is voter apathy.
Yeah.
Declare war on voter apathy. That's what you have to do. If your friends, when they start talking to you about politics, when you engage them, choose to be Democrats, wish them well and send them on their way. There's no need to fight with them, because if you accomplish the job of getting somebody engaged in politics and understanding that life is politics and politics is life, and everything that happens in their life goes back to the government that has power over them, they need to take back that power and use it in their hands to build the country the way they want to see it. The fundamental difference right now, Lincoln said, a house divided upon itself cannot stand. Right? The big divide this year is whether this is going to be a country where the government can take what they like, from who they like, as much as they like, supporting the premise that all money belongs to the government and you need to defend a reason why you should keep it and find a way that they can pay it back. Or this is a country where freedom and liberty allows people to find the answers to questions, the solutions to problems, the way to get things done and to make life better for themselves and their children. That's the big divide, because Lincoln said, the house will not fall, but it will become all one way or all the other. And I'm over here. I'm on the side of freedom. I'm on the side of hope. I'm on the side of opportunity. I'm on the side that says the best answers haven't been found yet, but if we try and tell people how to think about them, we never will. I stand over here because I believe in the future, I believe in the American people, and I believe that the people of New Jersey can actually come together this year and deliver a senator to support the majority that will help that actually happen. But I need you to do it. You think you can?
Yep.
The let's get on that job, because there's no sense in delaying. We can't delay. This is our chance. This is our moment. This is a terrible year to be a Democrat. This is the year if we can engage our friends without fighting with them. Ask them to just take a look around. And try it just for once. Try using your vote. See what happens. It doesn't cost anything. Don't fight with them. Don't shame them. Really. Just talk to them and engage them. And they'll agree with you. They're not happy. They would like to see something change. And if going down and voting might do something for it, all it takes is it doesn't even take $1. All it takes is a dream. Encourage your friends to dream, but do it this year. Do it tomorrow. Because we did not inherit this country from our parents. We're borrowing it from our children, and we need to give it back to them better than we found it. My name is Rich Pezzullo. I've been endorsed by members of the legislature, the County of Monmouth, the County of Union, the County of Camden. I've been extremely active in my church, in the Knights of Columbus. I've been extremely active in my community. I'm an EMT. I've worked in public service my entire life. I want to go to Washington, D.C. and serve you the way I've learned that community service and public service is supposed to be. Please help me on June 3rd. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Not looking to sabotage you with this question, but it's something that just came up in the past few days.
Sure.
If you don't know your opinion on it yet, I would say just say pass on it. The Soviet Union said that they will no longer sell the United States rocket engines that we need to go to the space station.
Right.
We have a 2-year supply, they say. Since they want to play that game, do you think, since we control and operate the internet, that we should shut down their internet if they want to play that game and keep us from going to the space station?
I think you're asking an interesting question. First of all, there's no Soviet Union, it's just the Russians.
Commies.
Okay, yes, whatever. Actually, no, they're a thugocracy, is what you have over there.
Right, well, they said they weren't going to sell us rocket engines because we were going to put liens on their assets going on with the Ukraine.
I think what you're talking, the simple answer is no, because the internet is not the property of the United States. It's not something that we own and control, and if we ever pretend that we have a right to interfere in that level, I don't think you're setting a right precedent. That's not really the American thing to do. You ask an interesting question about foreign policy, though. How should we deal with our foreign policy? I get my foreign policy from the back of a dollar bill. Anybody looked at the back of a dollar bill lately? When you look at the back of your dollar bill, you're going to see the Great Seal of the United States. It's the eagle, big bird, very powerful. That's our national symbol. He's looking forward, looking off to his right. In his beak, there's an olive branch. That olive branch represents hope, growth, and opportunity. It's biblical. That's what the dove had in his beak when he landed on the ark. That's what lay ahead for Noah and all mankind, was opportunity and growth. And that is what he holds in his claw as he reaches forward. If I say beak, I'm sorry. That's what he holds in his claw as he reaches forward. In his other claw, however, he's got arrows, because he's always prepared for war. As George Washington said, the surest way to keep the peace is to always be prepared for war. And that's what we need to do in our foreign policy. Be ready to fight, like Reagan was always ready, but yet he ended the Cold War without ever having to fire those shots. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
You were at our surprise meeting a month ago, and I've been losing a lot of sleep because I like you and I want you to be our senator in the state of New Jersey.
Thank you.
And now I'm even more impressed with what you said today.
Thank you.
The only thing that bothers me is that Cory Booker is Cory Booker, and there are people that idolize him just because of the color of his skin and not because of the content of his character. So, how can you represent yourself in a manner where you can point out his weaknesses, his faults, and his outrageous liberalism. That is certainly not a path for the people and the hardworking people and the patriotic people in the state of New Jersey.
Well, you make a good case that Cory Booker doesn't have the depth or breadth of life experience to represent a state as a peer with other states. He doesn't understand it. You know, he went to college with the jocks, so he was in a bubble there. He's been an elected official, and he's never had a real job. He doesn't understand what it's like, and as far he doesn't know what it's like to sweat out payroll as an employer. These are the things that need to be pointed out, and more importantly, without having to go on a personal assault against Cory Booker, because personal assaults are not my game. Personal assaults, other people can take care of, I think. If you don't like Cory Booker personally, you have to just look at his record. Look at the fact that if he was supposed to be an executive in charge, how many things that he was supposed to be paying attention to in Newark didn't happen. How the crime rate went up to levels that are unspeakable and legendary now. That's what you need to be talking about. You point to his record, but more importantly than Cory Booker, you point out the fact that Cory Booker will be a rubber stamp for everything you don't like that's coming down the pike from the federal government. That's how you help me defeat Cory Booker. And it's not as hard as people would like you to think. Cory Booker was just as stellar, just as famous, just as popular, just as Twitter savvy when Steve Lonigan came within 12 points of beating him. And that was at a time, that election was held at a time when the Democrats were all right because the Republicans were in the middle of shutting down the government. And in that environment, you had Mr. Superstar with $1 gazillion, with a Democratic Party stomping on the head of Republicans from sea to shining sea. And Steve Lonigan in that environment came within 12 points of defeating him. Now let's take this year. It's not a good year to be a Democrat. It's not a good year to be there supporting Common Core. It's not a good year to be there supporting the continuing expansion of growth. It's not a good year to be there supporting Obamacare. These are all the things that Cory Booker is going to be supporting that the people would like to see stopped. Cory Booker is going to give them more of that. We are going to give them less of that. All we have to do is make the case to the voters. What would you like this year? You have the Democrats as the party of government. You have the Republicans as the party of business. We need to find people that would like to see more business in this state and less government and deliver them to the polls. They're there and they're ready to follow you. Yes, sir.
After hopefully you get elected and find yourself at the first Senate Republican caucus meeting, are you going to vote for Mitch McConnell to be Senate Majority?
No.
Good.
That was an easy one. Yes, sir.
The IRS situation and Civilis, what is your approach? What do you think should happen? And what would you support in the Senate? I realize it's being investigated by the House. It's not the division of government that you're running for.
A couple things on that. First of all, what you're seeing happen in the IRS is a demonstration of why the founders wanted to put in place a system whereby the federal government never had the authority or the right to come bang on your door and demand your money or your property without due process. There was a reason for that, because the founders saw this year when the government would be able to abuse its power to have its way to punish people it didn't like. Didn't like those colonists. They were getting a little uppity. Let's put a stamp act on them. Well, see, that's what the IRS can do. The IRS has the power now to ruin some people's lives if they choose. That is an inappropriate use of government power. And it makes the case for the total removal and elimination of the IRS and the personal income tax.
One more question.
Sure, okay, one more. And I guess I've answered everything, except I really need to say this before I leave. If you take my cards, you'll see my website is on there. I am running the most successful grassroots campaign you've ever seen. When I ran in 1994 as a grassroots candidate, I got 5,000 votes. When I ran in 1996 as an independent candidate for U.S. Senate, I got 50,000 votes. I need to get it to the next level. This is the year I need to raise the money to get on radio, because people that have messages that you don't want to hear will end up getting more money, and you'll be hearing about them on the radio. If you liked what you heard tonight, and you would like to get more people hearing this, the way to do that is, if you can, go to Pezzullo.com, please make a donation. If you like to shoot and put holes in things, down at Bangers in Winslow, I'm having a fundraiser this Sunday. There's other ways that you can help the campaign, but by all means, please get involved in this campaign, because this is the message New Jersey wants to hear. There's hope, good things are coming, we can have it our way if we just pull the right handle. Thank you very much.
Hey, before we wrap, just a couple of closing things. I think Rich is going to be here for a bit. Frank is still here, so when we close, if you want to corner them and ask them the questions you didn't want to ask in public, feel free to do that. Think about something before we go. This is May 15th. The primary is June 3rd. It's less than 3 weeks away. You people here are the people who care, the people who get involved, the people who influence others. Can you commit yourself to working more than you have between now and June 3rd and bringing other people on board? For the Senate campaign and for the House primaries, that we have a couple of them right here in our district, in a couple of districts. I'm just asking, do more than you have done in the past. It's a short period of time. You can make a huge difference. Just a few of you. Other than that, Dee has the donation cup over there. And if you like what happened here tonight, I think it went very well. If you thought it was a good meeting, if you thought it was a good use of your time, you know the people who aren't here. You're all friends with them. Tell them you enjoyed it. Bring them here next time. Speak to your friends. We need to fill rooms. We need bodies. We need people who are active. Thank you for coming tonight. God bless you all. Thank you for Rich to be here, for Frank to be here, for Rob putting this on tape.